Welcome to Business Beyond Borders, the go-to podcast for CPA firms seeking transformative insights. I'm your host, Lawrence Whittam, and with each episode we'll uncover key insights, best practices, and invaluable resources tailored for CPAs. From trending strategies to diving deep into outsourcing and offshoring, our experts will help in all areas of your business. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Business Beyond Borders. So today we have an exciting episode with Karl Baker, who I spoke to a few weeks ago now, who has an interesting story, has been in the public accounting space, has been a consultant, moved much more towards that consulting area because he realized he liked it. He came from the audit side initially, if I remember correctly. And again, this is where I see a lot of firms heading, right? We want to start moving towards that advisory side. And Karl realized that was a direction that he wanted to head into a lot more. And after getting some opportunities with the firms he was working with to move into that, he then went off into the private sector to explore that further and in more detail, and then ended up starting his own CFO business, right? So it's a good sort of transition throughout, and still works, I believe, with some partnerships with CPA firms, I'm sure, and has that working for him, and also has done a bit of work with, again, growing a team, right? He's grown a team onshore, offshore, so he's now working from that perspective. So maybe I'll give a bit of advice there as to what he's been working on. So Karl, really appreciate you joining today.
Thank you, Lawrence. Happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
So I would love to start off with a little bit about you and your story, right? If you can just give everybody a bit of a teaser as to, again, who you are, your company now, but then sort of how you got here, right? Because I think that was a great story.
Yeah, great. Happy to do it. So my name's Karl Baker. I'm a licensed CPA. I'm in the Midwest, but I've done work all over the country and continue to do so. So I am, like I said, I'm a licensed CPA. I grew up in a small, in rural Missouri. And as I told you, at the risk of me going all the way back to when I was born, but I have a point for this. When I was a teenager, college member, and starting to learn about business and figure out what I want to do for my life and career, in small town Missouri, small town America, the local accountant, the local attorney, and the local banker, they are the business advisor to the community. I had never even heard of investment bankers and, Wall Street. I could barely tell you where New York City was. But I knew, I knew of the business advisory concept, and the local accountant, banker, and attorney, they were the ones helping people. And I was attracted to that life. So I declared accountancy in college, and with the whole goal of being a business advisor and helping small businesses and helping businesses. And so I went into college, got an accounting degree. Of course, the accounting firms steer you towards public accounting, rightfully so. It's a great place for learning financial analysis, learning your skill set, learning how to apply the theory of accounting to business. So I did that, but in those days, I started in 1992 and thereafter, and auditing has become more and more of a compliance-oriented type of work. And you can find all kinds of podcasts about people that are struggling in the auditing career. There are staffing shortages. But at the time, coming out of college, I was attracted to this glamorous audit lifestyle where you go in and you help clients. You are helping them with their accounting, their financial reporting, their business, bigger picture issue, helping them with their business, et cetera. The reality is the audit industry has become a very much complex compliance-oriented role. It's quite necessary. A lot of people love it. It's a necessary thing to do in the world of financial reporting and investing, et cetera. But I realized, and it took me 25 years to really articulate this for myself, but I realized that it was more compliance-oriented, not as much forward-thinking, value-added work as I wanted to do. I think I probably told you that in 2017, I did a very quick back-of-the-napkin calculation of how much time do I spend doing things I like and how much time do I spend doing things I don't like. I was working 3,000 hours a year, and I realized I spent about 5% of my work life doing things I liked, and 95% of my time I was spending doing things I didn't really like. So I realized I needed to make a change, and I went back to my roots, which is why I talk about my origin in small town America. I went back to my roots, and I wanted to do something more value added. And I'll stop there, but just end with businesses are hungry for financial leadership. And there's just a lot of value that somebody with my skill set, and there's lots of people listening that have these skill sets, there's hunger for that in the business community. And so I'm pleased to be able to contribute in my small way.
No, that's awesome. And can you share maybe, and again, because you've said to me how important it was to have that base, that foundation of working with the firms initially. So can you maybe talk about some of the skills that you gathered while you were there in public accounting, right? And then how did it really prepare you for what you're doing now from that perspective? Because from my understanding, again, it got you in front of clients, right? It got you in person in there talking to them, right? Even though you were doing only 5% of what you really like to do, right? You built up a lot of foundational skill sets essentially while doing it.
I cannot overstate the importance of the skill set that you build in public accounting with the financial analysis, with the deep, practical, real-life application of accounting theory. It is so important. The other thing, though, that's important is I can dive deeper into that a little bit, but I'll also talk about there's a difference between being a skilled accountant and understanding everything there is about GAAP and accounting theory and accounting standards and all of those. There's a difference between knowing that and being a client server and being a servant for your client and being responsive and being able to articulate all this stuff that you know in your head, being able to articulate it in writing, in verbal situations, etc. Public accounting helped me put structure in place. It helped me understand how to be a client server, how to be a consultant, an advisor, how to articulate complex things, make the complex simple, how to be a client server, and how to analyze and solve problems. You know, in college we learn the accounting theory, but here's a little hint. When you come out of college, most companies are not applying accounting theory perfectly or even close. And so you become a very good problem solver in helping clients with that. So those are a few things that come to mind that I talk about a lot with people that I work with.
And now you started, you've transitioned already towards really the CFO advisory piece, right? So now I'm assuming that is more on the majority of what you're doing now is more of the enjoyable piece, right? And you built your company around those pieces that you like to do, but you've also started to scale it. And I see some firms starting to get into it. And again, it's one of those things. You go to the conferences, you hear, you've got to start adding CFO advisory, right? You've got to start adding these advisory pieces. So maybe can you share a little bit about what firms and what individuals need to be doing to really provide that CFO advisory, not just providing advice, and some of them I think struggle to even get in front of their clients to provide value, but what should they be doing to be really truly seen as that CFO? And how do they scale that as well, right? Because as you mentioned, you're now building a team around you. I think that's the other piece. I've seen some adding it, but then they feel like they're the only ones that can do it now, right? So it's hard to then pass down internally. So can you maybe share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. It is very tempting to just say that I'm doing it all myself, but to really scale, you have to surround yourself. So I would say, first of all, I alluded to the 595. That 5% that I liked was meeting with clients, talking to them about strategy, doing financial reporting presentation. So those things are important, making the complex simple for clients, because people are running their businesses and they understand their skill sets. They understand if they're a healthcare provider, they understand the provision of patient care. If they're a manufacturer, they understand the manufacturing of widgets, but they don't necessarily know financial reporting. They don't know how to put processes in place. And those are some of the skill sets that are important. So how to do that is to understand how to articulate accounting concepts, financial reporting concepts in a way that resonates with people. Real quick story. I was sitting in a board meeting with a client a few years ago, and they were a $50 million enterprise. And we were sitting in a board meeting and we were talking about some collections and accounts receivable issues and things that you and I are just fairly run of the mill things, talking about AR agings and those sort of things. Well, as I was presenting some of the challenges this company was dealing with and what I was helping them with, I looked over at the CEO and she was shaking her head, kind of had her head down, her eyes closed, and she was shaking her head. And I said, "What did I say something?" And she just looked up and she had a knowing grin on her face. She said, "We've just never had this sort of articulation. We've never had this kind of help. We need this." And I'm just really, as I'm sitting here listening to this, I just really appreciate the help. So that's the sort of value that a CFO is adding. It's more than just the technical expertise. We're providing leadership and peace of mind to an enterprise that somebody has this, that we got this. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that is the sort of skill set that a person has to have. And I'll just tack on to that. A lot of people understand debits and credits, and they understand accounting theory, and they understand the basics of financial reporting. But to be able to lead a client through those issues and to help them and help them understand it is the skill set and the value that a fractional CFO or a CFO consultant can give.
Now, one of the things that resonated definitely from my conversation previously was around you mentioned something along the lines of small businesses need this just as much, if not more, than the big businesses, right? But they can't necessarily afford it. So that's where that fractional piece really is a requirement, right? And there's so many small businesses out there that, again, they maybe don't even know what they don't know in terms of, do they really know they need somebody like you right now? No. But then when you sat there and you're explaining it and you're able to bring to light in the strategy, right, it clicks, right? It's a light bulb moment essentially for many. So can you share maybe just a little bit around that as well? I mean, you shared this specific story, which is great, but then why do small businesses need this so much?
Yeah, a couple things. It goes back to, and I can give some examples, but it goes back to that concept that people, in whatever their skill set is, they're, especially if they're a sole proprietor or they have a small team, they know their skill set. Maybe they are a marketing agency. Maybe they are a healthcare enterprise. Maybe they are a manufacturer or a retail enterprise. Maybe they own a restaurant or a coffee shop or something like that. They understand that. They understand that skill set, but they don't understand finances, and necessarily a lot of people do, but a lot of them don't. Or maybe they're a contractor and they understand how to quote a job for building, a building or whatever, but how to boil that down to the accounting is where they can really understand the data that's driving their business. And as a sole proprietor or as a small business owner, they're probably wearing lots of hats. They're wearing the sales hat. They're wearing the client service hat. They're wearing the finance hat, talking to their bankers, trying to get a loan. They're wearing the marketing hat, the HR hat. And at some point, they need to start leveraging those hats and grow, but they don't know what that looks like. They've never been there before. All they know is their business. Maybe they used to be employed by somebody and they went out on their own, but they don't know what it's like to have 5 locations or to have a headquarters office and to have processes in place. All they know is how to get their bookkeeping done when they're done at the end of the day and they're doing their bookkeeping at midnight. So somebody like me or, a fractional CFO, they know they're at point A or B, and they need to understand how to get to point L and K. And somebody like me can help pull them there and design their processes to get there and to know what that looks like. That's those are a couple of examples. I have other examples, but that's what comes to mind.
That's perfect. And what about when we talk about as well getting into it, right? Some of these challenges, because again, as you mentioned, like a lot of them don't realize they have the need, right? Is the big thing. And I've heard from other people growing out a CFO advisory business that they get in front of people in some cases and they know that they don't get it, right? And I think that's the difficulty we have sometimes of explaining really why they need it and being able to showcase that and why it's worth the amount of money it is. Generally costing them, because you're generally going to save them in the long run by them taking those certain strategies because you're going to help them grow and all. So can you share sort of like how you are getting in front of people to sort of pass this message along, right? And what ways that other CFOs can do that?
Yeah. So boots on the ground, networking, marketing, telling your story. I do some social media marketing. Those are just really very practical ways to demonstrate value, to give to the community with education. We do lots of podcasts, videos, and just ways to try to anticipate what the market is challenged with, and to provide some education to demonstrate expertise. Hopefully then that causes somebody to say, that's a challenge that we're dealing with. And I'm sure there's other people. I'm not the only one on the street doing this. So hopefully my message with other people's messages are resonating, and it's raising awareness about how a small business owner can get the help that they need.
And then can you share, I know you mentioned that you do a little bit, like you're growing a team, right? So you've got some domestic team members, but virtually based, right? So, and then you've also got some international ones. So can you maybe share like what you are using those team members for support on, right? In your business, is it more of the back office? Is there certain finance functions that they're helping you with, right? And what those capabilities look like? That would be super helpful.
Yeah, sure. Happy to do it. So I grew up in the public accounting business model. Public accounting is a very much leveraged business model. So the partners of an accounting firm are not doing the direct auditing. Their entry-level staff and experienced staff are doing that, and as they grow, they start to supervise. So I'm very familiar with this leverage model, and it works. It works for clients. It works for career growth. So I'm just putting that in place as we grow our practice. I don't want to be just a sole proprietor doing all of the work. I want to be helping more clients, and it's a function of time. So I can only help so many clients if I'm a sole proprietor. Plus, I want to be giving jobs to people and giving careers and giving mentoring and pulling people up. So I have other expertise that have my skill sets. Some of them have more more skill set than I have in terms of technical expertise or different expertise. We have people that are very experienced controller level people, CFO level people. I use international. I use domestic and international for those sorts of folks. We live in a remote world. I do use a virtual assistant. She helps me with administrative work. She also essentially serves as the firm chief marketing officer. Any of our social media is being driven by her work. So that's helpful. We have accounting staff, both domestic and international. I do that for staffing and scheduling purposes. Plus, again, just looking for people that can help at the right place of expertise. And then I have designs to help them grow and be better at what they're doing.
Very cool. And then maybe just along those lines, like, is everybody virtual? Is everybody in your team work from home or work from an office, but virtually, not in your office?
As of right now, yes, we are a virtual firm. We have people. I have people in my local community. I have people. I'm in the Midwest of America, so I have people locally. I have a couple people in the Northeast because I lived in Boston for 15 years, so I have some relationships there. And so I have people there. I have, like I said, I have some international people, and then I have in my back pocket on an as-needed basis, I have others in the throughout the country.
Cool. No, really appreciate it, Karl. So, and again, I think this is an important area that firms need to look at, right, in terms of this CFO advisory, right? It's also, the point here is that there's an importance to actually going into the public accounting profession, right? So, but you need to identify what you want to do, right? And I think there are more and more larger firms and mid-sized firms that are offering these types of areas outside of traditional audit. You can go into their transaction advisory group. You can go into their CFO advisory group, right? You can start to look at different areas within a firm, and it's not traditional anymore in that sense. There's not just the compliance aspect in these firms that you can do. So, and again, some people may like the compliance, but the majority of people probably don't. In a lot of cases. So it's find the area that you enjoy, right? And really drive within that, right? Hopefully you can do it within the firm you're at. But if you don't, you can go to other firms and smaller firms that have more adaptability and more industry specific focuses and more areas that you can really just hone in on what you enjoy doing at the end of the day, right?
I think that's such an important point. One of the biggest lessons that I learned by making that transition is that we need to have the passion to work our hardest at this day in and day out. And if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then it will become a grind factor. So some people love doing, 1,000 tax returns per year. And that's a necessary thing in the corporate world. Somebody has to love doing it. But if you don't love doing that, find something that you do love, and your quality of life will be better. Your quality of work will be better. Your mindset will be better, and it'll come through in passion, which clients will notice. And it'll just make your work life a lot better.
So, valuable advice there, and I adhere to that. I agree with that completely. So, now, how can people find you if they want to? If maybe they need CFO advisory services, or maybe it's just a firm that's looking to add that or is doing it and struggling, right? I'm sure you don't mind having a conversation, right? Or
Not
talking more about your journey. So where can people find you?
Yeah. So when I got started, I found people that gave me some advice, and they spent, a few hours with me over the course of time, and I loved it. And so I'm happy to pay that forward. Best way to find me is to look on my website. My website has email addresses, phone numbers. That is Baker CFO Advisory.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. Look under W. Karl Baker, and you can find me there as well. Facebook pages as well. But Baker CFO Advisory.com. My email address is Karl, Karl, at Baker CFO Advisory.com. And phone numbers are on the website. Happy to talk with anybody.
Cool. No, really appreciate you coming on, Carl. And again, I think everybody needs to have a think, right, when it comes to this. If there's anybody listening that's thinking about the accounting profession as well, there are ways outside of the traditional stuff. I think it creates a great foundation to work on,
Yes.
right? And again, Carl's just a great example of, again, he found the area that he enjoyed, right? And then you went along that path and you've eventually created your own firm to make sure you are focusing on the 95% of what you enjoy doing at the end of the day.
That's right. So, yeah, that's right.
So really appreciate it. And I hope everybody had a great episode today on Business Beyond Borders, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Business Beyond Borders. I'm Lawrence Whittam, and it's been a pleasure bringing you impactful insights tailored for the modern CPA firm. Remember, the world of accounting is vast and ever evolving, and we're here to navigate it together. For more resources and episodes, don't forget to subscribe and reach out to our experts. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of your business and explore the limitless possibilities beyond borders.